And then something that's been going on for like the last 2 weeks, I actually wrote an article about it as well. WWE is exploring the idea of legalizing betting on their matches. So, from what I've, from my research, apparently this is a Vince McMahon thing. And are you at all shocked
What?
about that? I know, right?
Oh,
Um, so
a
there
way to
is
make
there
money. I'm shocked.
I know, right? There are some people that are a little bit confused about it too, because it was I don't know if it was like DraftKings or something like that. They had some little
It
bets,
is DraftKings.
yeah,
My
and it
people at
was
DraftKings.
yeah, it was they were like, okay, how many times is Roman Reigns going to land the Superman punch in this match or something? So people think that WWE's already been involved in sports betting, and that's not true, because like it wasn't legalized in as many places as it is now.
Yeah.
So from what I have seen, they are exploring it in 3 states, I believe Michigan, Indiana, and Colorado. And this is why I think it's a horrible idea. So when you first think about it, it's like, okay, cool. Like, it's the trendiest thing right now, sports betting. It's growing a massive audience once again, now that it's being legalized virtually everywhere. Why wouldn't one of the biggest sport companies in the entire universe be interested? Of course they would. And then when you see it's Vince McMahon, of course he would. Um, I also thought that it could be something that they think might entice more buyers into buying the company. I don't know. But so the idea that they're floating right now is that storylines and match results would be planned months in advance, handed over to the investors, who then, bring it to the sports books and whatever, so people can bet on them. So it's like, let's say the Royal Rumble winner, right? Whoever that is, then they're going to have a bet set up for Mania. That's at the end of January all the way until April, which is usually when Mania is. It was one year, it was at the end of March, but usually it's in April. And the reason for that is because they have to try and convince the sports books that the results can't be leaked. Because of course, when you bet on sports, unless there is some sort of weird things going on between the
The script?
referees,
Yeah, you mean the
yeah,
NFL script?
yeah, that the result no one knows. It's just going to end up being what it is, but predetermined matches do have results that have been booked and whatever. So they've gotten to the point of saying it would be booked in advance, and the wrestlers in those matches wouldn't even find out if they were winning or losing and up until an hour before the show. So I have a lot of opinions and I wrote about it, so since I did that, I want to hear what you have to say.
So I just want to answer this question quick. And Kieran said that Will Vince regained control, and I just have 2 words.
If that's what you think, I got 2 words for you.
No, he's not. He's not doing it. So that answers that question. Thank you for your comment, though, Adam. We really appreciate it. But no, here's what my thought is on that: is that you can't do that. Maybe back in the 80s and early 90s when news wasn't at the touch of our fingers, you could do this because it wouldn't get out. It would have no way. However, we live in a different age. We live in a different world now. So what you would need to do is you need to have a liaison. You need to have someone who works for WWE, or if you expand it to other places, AEW, Ring of Honor, I mean, whatever, Impact. You need to have a liaison who he's the only person who knows. Like, he is the only person who knows.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Like, and his job, like, he signs literally however millions and millions amount of legal documents signed his life away to do this. Just, yeah. And he can't tell anyone, he can't, like, whatever. And you just have that person just be a liaison to tell him, like, hey, this is what's going to happen. Because that's how you're going to get it be legal and also still be able to do what we're doing now
Mm-hmm.
with it. And it just can't go down with the months in advance, especially in this, era. And you just said with the, they would find out an hour before and all
Mm-hmm.
that. Like, you can't have that coincide with that. That's a recipe for a clusterfuck, honestly.
Yeah.
So, and then I do want to make one more little point here because I do want to hear your thoughts, but the DraftKings thing, a
Mhm.
little insight, is that that's not betting at all. It's literally like if you made a Google sheet and you were just like, "Hey, I'm doing a raffle," or "Hey, I'm doing
Yeah.
squares." Like
Yeah.
that's basically what DraftKings is doing because of their partnerships and whatever with them, and it's really all it is.
Yeah,
It's
well,
not
that's why I wanted to, like, clarify it because I did
good.
have
Yeah,
someone who commented on my article and was like, "Well, aren't they already doing this?" And it's like, "No, it's
I asked
not."
that too. I
Yeah.
asked. Oh, I see. This is why I'm the champ of the peeps. I ask the questions before you guys think of them. I'm just saying.
So, I find it interesting to hear, like, your first reaction to it because my first reaction to it was completely different. It had nothing to do with, like, keeping it under lock and key and, like, that being the biggest issue. My idea, and I wrote about it, was the idea of creating storylines that far in advance is a recipe for disaster. That is
Kind of
that
goes along. Yeah,
yes.
I'm glad you
So,
brought that up because I agree.
and I even mentioned the Sami Zayn and the Bloodline stuff, right? Originally that was supposed to be like a guest appearance. You know what I mean? Where it's like sometimes you'll see on a sitcom where someone was supposed to just be on a couple episodes and then they end up being like, "Oh, well the audience loved them so
The
much."
janitor from Scrubs. It's a
Sure.
perfect example.
Amy on The Big Bang Theory. She was only supposed to be on for a couple episodes to be like, if you don't watch Big Bang Theory.
I
I used
do.
to Okay.
No, I
Okay, so
watched a lot of it on TBS. I
okay, so Amy was originally just supposed to be on for a couple episodes, and then
Amy
they were like,
Farrah
"Oh, this is actually really working." So that's why she ended up being a permanent part of the show. So that's kind of exactly what happened with Sami Zayn and the Bloodline. It was supposed to just be like a couple little things, something that was supposed to last a little bit, but the fans got so behind it that even Sami said himself, like, it ended up being something that they prolonged to now it's closing in on a year that he is involved with the Bloodline storyline. So if they had just done this at that point, we would have seen maybe 1 month of the Sami and the Bloodline, and then they just immediately end it because they have to, because
takes
that's
the
what they said
fans.
their
It
investors
takes
like it.
yeah.
Yeah,
It
so
takes the
it's
fans
like
out
it's
of it.
the whole the one of the biggest parts of professional wrestling is the reaction and the feedback that you get from the fans, whether it's good, it's bad, it's indifferent. They have to take that because they literally are going to write stories and present wrestlers based off of the feedback that we're giving them. So if you put someone out there and they get no reaction 2-3 weeks in a row, why they're going to take them back? Like they're not just going to keep putting the same person out there and still trying to shove this down your throat. Like they want you to have a reaction, and they always say, like, if you listen to wrestlers when they talk about this, they always say if you get no reaction, that's the worst.
That's the
Like it's
worst.
like it is. I mean, and so this just seems like does not make any sense to me because you can't predict that. You might think, let's say we're talking about like John Cena versus Austin Theory. That's something that people have wanted to see for a while since Theory had begun mentioning Cena. I mean, basically when he was in the Indies, but since the beginning of him being in NXT all the way through now. Let's say that's something that people wanted to see, and then they go in a different direction. Maybe Cena isn't even there. People are going to be upset. Or let's say they didn't want to see that and they decided Cena in theory is going to happen, but people really wanted to see Cena versus Seth Rollins, right? And then whatever, it's like they're going to hear that. It's not only just going to be online that they're going to see it, they're going to hear it at the stadiums every single night. So I just think on a bunch of levels this is not going to work, and it's exactly what you said. I feel like it's just a ploy to try and get more money. And the irony of it is like, okay, I get it. Like it's a billionaire trying to get more money, but I mean, like, is this really the way to go? Like this makes it seem more like Vince is trying to ruin the product, which
The thing is that you add betting to wrestling in an ideal world, in a perfect world.
mhm.
You add the same sports betting in the Big Four to professional wrestling, you would instantly get new fans. That's just easy.
Yeah. No, and
Problem
I
is,
mentioned that too. Like it would bring in new people, but you'd also be neglecting the people who have been there.
And you can't do that. You
Yeah.
cannot do that. And when you get to Vince's age and you get to the point where you are more corporate than the people,
Yeah.
that's you have blinders on. So it is tough, but it's going to happen. But you need to do it in the way that I said, because that is the only way, one of the few ways. I'm not gonna say the only way, but one of the few ways that it could actually work and be profitable.
As far as I'm seeing right now, it's not happening. Like none of the states that they've
Before
spoken
we
to.
die, I'm saying.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying like in any time recent, like in the next, I don't know, year or two, it's definitely not
Year
happening.
two, no.
Yeah, from what I'm
No.
already reading, they're not convincing these states and sports books at all. Like they have a real problem with a lot of it. So they're not doing a very good job, which I'm like, thank God, because it's just, I mean, it was problematic in sports, and that's why they got rid of it, because it was a problem even in like legitimate unplanned ending sports. So I can't imagine when you throw in all these other details, the way that WWE works, I can't imagine how that would be successful. There's plenty of other ways you can make a shit ton of money, and it doesn't need to be this. So